I'd like to call the regular meeting of LAFCO, San Benito County LAFCO, April 11th, 2024 at 4 p.m. to order. B, can you start us off in the pledge?
Okay, and then we'll do roll call.
Oh, do we do roll
That's
call
okay.
first?
We'll do the pledge. Ready? Again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry, this is the first meeting I've ever chaired. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Curro,
Here.
Commissioner Jordan,
Here.
Commissioner Betancourt,
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
and Commissioner Casey is absent. So we have 4.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the affidavit of posting?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion made by B. Gonzalez, seconded by Angela Curro. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Betancourt,
Yes.
Commissioner Curro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
It's 4-0.
Thank you. Public comment?
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card. And no one's on Zoom, so no public comment.
Thank you very much. Business items. Proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. Our executive director.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Hello. So in front of you, you have the proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25. According to government code, LAFCO must approve a proposed budget by the end of April, and then a final budget by June 15th. So we will be doing that at our next June meeting, adopting a final budget for the year. So this is a proposed budget. I don't think there are many significant changes, or any significant changes actually, from the current fiscal year budget. There's a slight increase in the total budget of a very nominal amount. Let's see here, just under $2,000. And that is generally due to travel and conference related expenditures. Because it will not be nearby. It's going to be in Tenaya Lodge, which is near Yosemite. This budget allows for attendance of 3 commissioners to that conference, and includes costs for registration, and then there's another line item for lodging. I have had several emails from Cal LAFCO that the cost of conferences is going to be going up. Particularly lodging costs will be going up, and registration. They're having a hard time finding facilities that can offer a conference for under about $800 a person. It has in the past been about $500 to $600 for the conference, so it will be going up a bit. So those are the 2 line items that really had any change from this current fiscal year. Also in that proposed budget, you'll see that there's a column that's the current fiscal year, year-to-date expenditures, to give you an idea of what portion of that line item has been used. So a number of them are quite low. For example, postage. $81 of $1,000 has been used. It's a little unpredictable how much we'll use of postage, just because it's connected to the applications that we receive and the notifications that we have to do. So I wouldn't recommend any change to that, even though we see we're only using $81 this year. Next year may be different. Another issue with the year-to-date expenditures I've noticed is that I will ask that they be used from a particular budget item, and then it ends up being allocated to another budget item. So I'm trying to get on the same page with the county to ensure that we're correctly allocating our costs to the right budget line item.
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because we've been doing it wrong, or you're just not familiar with our system?
When I send in invoices, I very clearly state which budget line item each item needs to come out of. I think when my invoices are sent, there's several budget line items. Like when I'm reimbursed for something, it will come out of a different budget line item than others, and I'm thinking that maybe the auditor's office isn't looking at every single one, and they're allocating to something else. So it's just been happening just a couple of times, but I'll work with them. And another item that
Can
is...
I just ask another question, Madam Chair, if that's okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have had that problem on
Mhm.
other occasions, not just LAFCO. And I don't remember if they did this when I was chair and they were showing us the invoices and asking for approval. I wasn't actually monitoring during that time the line items, but we used to have a really handy dandy stamp, and it would give the budget number, and so it didn't ever talk about the description, because where I was seeing the problem is the description. They had, if it wasn't exactly the way they thought it was, they would assume it was a different line. Well, this sounds more like what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to numbers, and all of a sudden the problem was all gone, because I'm like, that's the number I want, and you can't misinterpret the number. And once I went to numbers, it solved a lot of problems we had, but we had very similar issues. And it's a little frustrating when you're trying to monitor your budget and you can't even trust that it's going in the right line.
Right, and I do
I
use
get
the
it.
numbers on my invoices.
Okay, so then, if you need from our side, because it's going through the auditor's office, I have no problem having a little conversation there. A very nice conversation. It will not be bad at all.
Well, I'll make an attempt to work through with them, and then I'll let you know.
And then, Madam Chair, may I ask another issue regarding the line items? Since two executive directors ago, we have been requesting detailed billing for your hours as well as legal, and that has not been happening. So is that something that we can start getting as a board? We can start seeing how your time is being allocated as well as legal on
Right.
a detailed billing?
That can certainly be included. All of my invoices go through the chair, and there's an hourly breakdown in my invoices that the chair approves for payment. And then the legal counsel, up until I realized that I had the ability to approve the invoices, also provides a breakdown, and the chair was approving. The way the policies are written is that the executive officer can approve the legal counsel invoices, so we're starting to transition just to take some of the burden off of the chair. But I can certainly include those in the in our monthly agenda packet.
Well, those
for
of
your
us on this
reference.
board that are not the chair nor the vice chair, then we don't get that information. We just see a lump sum. And I know this has been an ongoing conversation that we have had at least for the last 2 years, but going back 3 directors. And so I was just wondering if that's something you can address.
Sure. Yeah, I can include those invoices. I do in my other LAFCOs as well.
Yeah, and did we say that we wanted it monthly? I thought we agreed that we were going to do it quarterly, because I see you have the quarterly with the report, which is great. But what the thought was behind our request was that behind that would be all of the invoices, so that they could see them to that quarterly report. I think that's where we were trying to get to. I don't think we decided monthly, but I could be wrong.
I just know it's been an ongoing conversation since I've been on LAFCO, is that we have been asking our ED for itemized billing for the hours, to account for the hours and the time that's being drawn down on, and we never got that. It's as if we were being ignored. And I know you're not ignoring us, but I'm just putting it, I'm just putting this out there, so that, since we're talking about itemization anyways.
So, sorry, excuse me, can we do it with the quarterly updates? Is that okay?
If we have the quarterly itemized, yes, I think that should
Yeah.
be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the quarterly are included here, and I'll add the invoices, for the last 3 months that we've received, including mine with a breakdown of those hourly, uses of my time, okay?
Oh. Who signed your check?
The chair does.
Pardon?
The chair gives approval, and then, it's sent to the auditor's office.
I don't ever remember when I was chair
Yeah.
signing.
I signed all of them as chair, so I reviewed
Okay.
every one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And then the check is actually signed by Joe Paul, the auditor.
What about, consul?
Yes, I also approved those.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. It didn't go through the executive director. It was through me. And actually, when it was me, everything was going through me. It was a lot. So I like the idea, and I'm jumping ahead on the agenda, but I like the idea of having a little discretion on your end to lighten the load, because it was quite a bit, because there was not just, we're gonna send them to her on Fridays. They were coming all the time.
So if we do it quarterly, does that still happen?
It'll still happen, it's just the backup will all be attached to the report.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll all see them on a quarterly, I'll see them on a monthly.
Got it.
We're good with that?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on, the proposed budget?
I gotta, we had a business, but, we were not on a computer, so, this is kind of
Is,
strange to me. But I guess the results are the same.
so, yeah,
I just don't know how to look at it, I
okay.
guess.
And you're talking about the financial reports, correct? Okay,
Right.
okay, we'll
Yeah.
get to that one in a second.
Oh,
I should mention one further thing on here for clarification was that we had talked about adding an agenda line item to address items such as security during meetings that we didn't have a building line item for. So I am working with the auditor's office to come up with a number, so you'll see that one as a 619.XX. On their services and supplies, I've entitled it Brown Act and Outreach, but we're searching for a number that would be appropriate there. So that's an additional brand new item that has not been used previously.
Well, we have an approximate estimation of what it would cost since we implemented that with the Board of Supervisors, so we can kind of just go along with the same organization, if that's okay with you all. And look at that figure. I mean, the hours aren't gonna be as long, the duration, but, you know, you can go to that, the county already has an established, contract with some sort of a security firm.
Okay.
So following this, you'll need to conduct a public hearing, and then if you approve of the proposed budget, then adopt the attached resolution 2024-01. So that would be the next steps.
Madam Chair?
I understood. Oh, go ahead, yeah.
I only have one question. Because there were so many of us that were new, like the three of us were
Mhm.
pretty new, we really enjoyed that annual conference. So you budgeted 3. I don't have a problem not attending to be able to allow others. But I really like that conference. You guys are totally right. You get a lot out of that.
Yes.
I don't know if if there is a will that we want to keep attending those as commissioners, if there's a will to increase that from more than 3, because I do know that includes our alternate.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
It wasn't a motion, it was just a conversation
comment.
to start.
Do we have a date for that?
It is October. I thought I had put it in here. Let me look, but it's in Yosemite, and it's one of my very favorite locations.
It's
for-
beautiful there in the
it's
fall. Mhm.
Gorgeous. So it's October 16th to the 18th. And something to consider is that to date, quite a few of our county line items, such as professional services from Public Works, we have used none of the funds from those line items. So when we get closer to June, we may have the ability to transfer some of the funds from those line items into the conference and travel budget line items, if you desire. It'd be a way to do it without having to change or increase the budget.
Oh, okay.
And I'll just tell you from my experience with the county, they won't change your original budget numbers. What they do is you authorize them to go over on one line and then stay under on the other lines, and it equals out in the end. I tried having them changing budget numbers. They weren't real happy with me with that request. So just to give you a heads up, I love how you think, because that's how I think, but yeah, when it comes to actually implementing it, it's kind of a little different in how they do it.
Well, it should be, we can adjust to our final budget, and then we hand over our final
Right.
budget for them to input in the system, so hopefully.
Yeah, but once we have the final in, they normally don't want to change stuff, so.
Perfect, thank you. Go
I
ahead.
got a question. Is that conference, Zoomed?
No, they have not provided virtual
It's
access
not
to the
on YouTube
conferences.
or?
Mm-mm.
I
They
think it'd
do-
be a good idea that they do that.
I'll
so
let
that-
them know, because I've had others ask about that as well. They do provide all of their session resources on the CalLAFCO website, which has been redone. So I would recommend, if you haven't been on there, to go log in and create your own access into the CalLAFCO website, and then there's tons of resources, including all presentations that have been done at each one of the conferences.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the council,
Oh,
commission?
we know what you meant.
Thank you. I swear to God. Okay, I'd like to now open it for public comment, or
Good.
public hearing, sorry.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card, and no one on Zoom. We have Elia Salinas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. On line item the training registration, the 619.194. So I agree with Commissioner Curra with regarding to, on a future date to consider. It's very, very educational, and also you're having a conversation with an individual, and then it brings a question to ask, and you're able to get those answers there, especially from those who have more years' experience being on there. And the only thing that I don't know, because we have not had the opportunity to get the billables, does LAFCO, San Benito County, pay for the attorney and for the executive officer to attend the conferences?
So in my contract, it's written that I will be reimbursed for registration and lodging at the conferences, but only 1/3 of those costs, because I have 2 other LAFCOs. I actually now have a 4th LAFCO as well, so it'd be 1/4 cost to the commission.
And
In my contract, include costs to the commission for attending the conference.
Thank you.
okay. And does that also include, I know that within the budget, because again, looking at the billables, because it's one of the questions, and I guess when you get to see it, you'll be able to know, Commissioner or Chairwoman. Are we paying also mileage as also, we're paying, the LAFCO, San Benito County is paying for travel time. Does travel time also include mileage? I don't know, so unless I see the bills. And I appreciate that they're being handed in, but we're not able to see them and ask questions, so that's about it. So it goes back to literally way before Commissioner Gonzalez came on board and Commissioner Bencourt and myself were asked for several years and then we never got a detailed billing. So that's why we're asking again, especially now that we're working on the budget today and also having to do with the handbook. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can answer the mileage question. If are you talking about in regards to me traveling here? No, none of my mileage is covered or reimbursed. The entire line item travel mileage is for the commission in traveling to the conferences.
Jennifer, I thought in your contract that we had to pay one way?
One way.
Is in your contract, right?
Correct.
But that was by the hour, so if it took you 3 hours to get here or 4 hours,
Mm-hmm.
that depends on traffic, right? Or do you take an average?
I do the same every time. It's not your fault if there's a bad accident.
Thank you.
Well, traffic is horrendous everywhere now.
That's true.
And,
Okay.
maybe we should contract with you the next time it comes up a certain amount. I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah, we can consider that.
That might be discussed.
And I do need to look at my contract to see when the sunset date was or the review date was.
Right.
I can't remember off the top of my head if it's July or if we made it to October. I can't remember. So when I look at that, we can consider it. Okay?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Honestly, I my only comment was I did all of the commissioners. I thought everybody, but maybe the alternate didn't received a hard copy or a electronic copy of the executed contracts for both you and Josh. And if it hadn't gone out, could we email that out to everybody so that everybody has it? Just so
Thank
that
you for that.
they have the wording and it's all updated. Okay, thanks.
Angela, I don't recall the consul's contract on travel. I just don't remember. Do you recall?
I'm pretty sure we're paying for travel time
Is
on
the
that.
same as
Not the
Yeah.
same as what Jennifer's is, but we can look at that when the
Right.
clerk of the board sends out the contracts to all of us. We can go back
Mhm.
through that.
And I can just confirm that that is correct. Our contract includes us billing travel time to attend commission meetings in person.
Sorry, Josh, it's hard to remember that you're still with us. It's like you're the little hover above us. So it's
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
No other comments.
Thank you. Closing public hearing. Do we go for a motion to approve the resolution and the proposed budget?
So move per staff recommendation?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Gonzalez, seconded by Commissioner Bettencourt. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bettencourt,
Yes.
Commissioner Curro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
4-0.
Thank you. Business items, non-hearing items. Approval of minutes of March 14th, 2024, regular meeting.
So moved?
Thank you.
Can I second it even if I didn't attend the meeting?
Thank you. Motion made to approve the minutes by Commissioner Curro, seconded by Commissioner Gonzalez. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bettencourt,
Yes.
Commissioner Curro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
4-0.
Thank you. Was there any public comment on that? Thank you.
Doesn't look like there's public comment.
LAFCO financial reports for fiscal year 23-24, quarter 3. Oops. Questions, comments, concerns from the commission? Commissioner Curran?
I'll just say that I know these reports aren't necessarily the most friendly to read, but they do contain a lot of good information. It took me quite a while to get that down, so if you want to on the side, feel free, reach out to me. We can go through it and I can.
No,
share.
I eventually figured it out.
Yeah, it took me a while. It was not fun. It's auditing language.
Right.
But I do appreciate seeing them, and I'm very excited to have all the backup with them.
And I'm just gonna make a point on, the general ledger account number, the 626.95, the, education training. I did find my receipts, but I forgot to bring them today, but I did find my receipts, the hotel and all of that stuff. So I will be bringing that in, okay?
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? You're good? Public comment?
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card. Still no one on Zoom. No public comment.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the reports?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Gonzalez, seconded by Commissioner Betancourt. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Betancourt?
Yes.
Commissioner Curro?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
4-0.
Thank you. Wastewater Municipal Services Review Presentation.
I've been excited to hear about this one.
And while you walk up, can I make a comment? I know you don't have it attached to the agenda right now, but when the minutes are attached, we can attach the presentation. It's a really good presentation.
Yeah, it will be attached hopefully by tomorrow.
Okay, and the only reason I saw it is because I went to that governance meeting where she kind of did a test run on it. And thank you for doing that. I thought that was very educational.
Thank you. Yeah, I've condensed it to focus specifically on the governance structure options that we've identified so far. We are 90% complete with the draft, so we have a pretty solid draft ready to go. And I'll talk about at the end of my presentation kind of the next steps and where we'll go from here. Do we not have it prepared? Did it charge? Okay, so I'll just use these. Okay. So bear with me as I look at two different screens for my notes and for the presentation. But we have focused the regional wastewater MSR on all agencies that are under LAFCO jurisdiction that provide wastewater services. I know it's slightly zoomed out. I zoomed in, it's a little blurry. So that includes San Juan Bautista, Hollister, Sunny Slope, which is the light yellow shading, and then Tres Pinos, you'll see down at the very edge of the slide there. And then the bright yellow is Cielo Vista, that's CSA 22. And then we also covered CSA 45, Rancho Larios. It's not active anymore, and we are recommending dissolution of that CSA. So that's not shown on your map because we did not have a map for it. Okay, so key issues that really needed to be addressed as part of this municipal service review. First and foremost was an issue with the Hollister urban area and its urban service area. They are two distinct things, but they have been used interchangeably in a lot of planning documents, in the city documents, in LAFCO documents even. There's no definition for what just an urban area is in any LAFCO or government code related legislation. Urban service area is defined. It is defined as, let me see, developed or undeveloped land within the city's sphere of influence proposed to be served during the first 5 years of the adopted capital improvement program. So I can tell you the urban service area that we have extends well outside of the sphere of influence for the city. So it doesn't meet the definition that's in the government code. The Hollister urban area, I believe, came about as use for planning documents, and is used in a lot of the city and county planning documents with regard to both water and wastewater. The LAFCO history of the urban service area is very spotty. There's references to it from the 80s. There's a mention of an annexation to or addition to the urban service area in the 90s. And then there's an adoption somewhere in the early 2000s. So it's unclear because how can you adopt something that's already existed? So it's very hard to nail down what the exact history is of the urban service area. Also, LAFCO policies do not clearly and in detail define what the urban areas are, so it can be unclear and difficult to understand. The policies that we'll be reviewing and providing clarifying language to don't describe how the urban service area is to be used. What's its purpose? Is it purely just a line that says this area is going to be developed in 5 years? Or was LAFCO intending for there to be a purpose behind it, meaning that it's another communication tool such as the sphere of influence for the city to follow? And we've already said it doesn't meet the government code definition. Another key issue was identifying and recommending alternatives to efficiently and adequately provide wastewater services to all of those out-of-area service extensions. We're aware of several that have occurred over the years, so that's kind of the key issue that's addressed here and what I'll focus on for the governance structure options. Also, San Benito County and the city have been challenged to reach agreement regarding wastewater services for potential development adjacent to or surrounding the city. So it's definitely creating a challenge to move forward with any kind of development potential on the part of the county if they can't provide services in those areas or ensure that services will be provided. Another issue. The city of San Juan Bautista had a general plan sphere of influence from 2016 that it adopted, but it was never adopted by LAFCO. So the city's sphere of influence is approximately, I think, 20 years old for LAFCO's purposes. So there's definitely a need to update that. I do know that the city is in the process of proposing to shrink back its sphere of influence to the city lines and coming to an agreement with the county regarding development surrounding the city. So it is an issue that's being addressed. Okay, so for your reference, here's the Hollister urban area. And then this one has, the red line is the urban service area. And then there's a planning area that extends well beyond it, and the existing sphere of influence that is much smaller than the urban service area.
You're giving us all the maps that have been explaining the convolution and the conflict that has been existing at LAFCO for years. So thank you for acknowledging that. And I'm hoping that your maps with the color codes will help us all understand what the boundaries are, where they are, so there's no misnomer or misinformation that's being quoted by someone, whether a member of LAFCO or otherwise. But, you know, the communication has been muddied in the water for quite some time because of the lack of clarity of that map, those maps.
Definitely. And like I said, the terms have been used interchangeably in all documents, including LAFCO documents. So, ensuring that all of the stakeholders are on the same page as to what exactly each of them are and the purpose behind them is really important. Let's see here. Cielo Vista has requested an out-of-jurisdiction service seeking emergency service connection due to the failure of its existing wastewater facilities that LAFCO approved back in December. And the county is considering dissolution of the CSA. That might be further down the line, but at this point they're actually considering divesting the CSA of its wastewater service power because it will no longer be providing those services.
Excuse me, Jennifer, before you go on any further, in any of your investigation, have you found in the documents that, the point I'm trying to get at is most people think that if we fill in that houses are just going to spring up all over. And I don't think that that's true. Or did you find in your investigation that that is true?
I haven't seen anything to indicate that, but there's the general idea that utilities, such as water and wastewater, are growth-inducing services. So the extension and availability of those services can create growth. However, obviously growth and permits associated with growth have to come from the Land Use Authority. So the Land Use Authority, through its general plan, will determine where and if development can occur.
But the whole idea of LAFCO, one of the main issues of our job is to protect prime ag land. And to me, by protecting the aquifers from nitrates is a good reason why I believe LAFCO should, a good idea to expand that sphere. Whether it grows or not is up to the general plans of each one of the entities, not up to LAFCO. Okay.
True. It's true. And you do want to ensure that proper wastewater services are being provided just for that reason. You have CSA 22, Cielo Vista is a good example. Their wastewater treatment plant is on the verge of failing, so it's much needed that they transfer to the city, which is to the benefit of the environment around them, for sure. Okay. CSA 45, as I mentioned, they a while ago had transferred operations of their wastewater services to the HOA, to the Homeowners Association. It's considered inactive, so LAFCO will need to dissolve it because it still exists on paper but has not been formally dissolved. Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Mhm.
So can you go back to that one? So, because I agree with the ones, you know, the CSAs that are no longer utilizing the services need to be, you know, dissolved. Don't we also have some CSAs that are on that the HOA and their internal water boards are managing everything, but we still have CSAs assigned to them?
Yes.
And we're gonna dissolve those, right? But that's another project, I'm assuming.
Yes, that will
Okay.
be another project. An issue is that it's a debate on whether an HOA is an appropriate successor agency for providing these services that have been provided by a public entity. Because you're transferring public assets and public funds to a private entity in that transition process. So there's a debate amongst LAFCOs on whether that can or should occur or not. In the case of CSA 45, it's already happened. It's been 15 or 20 years since they've had anything to do with the wastewater operations. So seems to be what's done is done. There's no going backwards, so that's why I would recommend definitely dissolving it. For the others, it depends on where they are in the transition process. Because like I said, it's debatable on whether that's appropriate.
Conversation for another time, but thank you.
Is CSA 45 Cielo Vista?
Rancho Larios.
Oh, Rancho Larios.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
22 Cielo Vista. Oops.
Okay, so now we're into the important part, the governance structure options. As one of the required determinations for the municipal service review, you are required to make determinations about governance structure options that could improve level of services and efficiencies of services. So that is the focus here. That's kind of the key aspect of this particular service review in addressing some of those issues that I identified. One being that Hollister urban area and Hollister urban service area. The first option, and frankly a recommendation, that the function of the Hollister urban area needs to be evaluated and the necessity of it determined. If it's determined that the city would like to continue using Hollister urban area and the county would like to continue using it, it should be redefined or defined as a planning area and then renamed something completely different, so that there's no chance in using the two terms interchangeably, moving entirely away from urban area or whatever, if we want it to be municipal service planning area or something like that, but not urban area.
Is that a recommendation from you to
Yes.
us? Okay.
Yes, but that's going to be on the part of the city and the county to do in their planning documents.
Right.
That's not up to LAFCO. Also, I recommend eliminating, frankly, the Hollister urban area and focus on the sphere of influence for the entity or the city adopted planning area in its general plan. As you saw on that map, there is a planning area. There's a urban service area, there's a sphere of influence, there's a planning area. So why not just focus on using the planning area as the planning area?
You're making it too easy.
I know.
I was saying that facetiously, but because there was so much confusion going on the last couple of years, you're making it where it's going to be uniform, or hopefully it's going to be uniform not only with LAFCO, but the city, the county, the cities, and the county, and we're all speaking the same language and all understanding what boundaries we're talking about when we use a particular term. So thank you for that.
Well, I do know also that the city is already also considering eliminating the urban area and the urban service area from its planning document and its general plan. That's a consideration, or just retiring the term. So, it's a good
Madam
thing.
Chair, I'm so happy to hear that, because when you said that the cities need to do this, or the city needs to do this, I'm like, okay, well, we can't make the city do anything, or how are they doing with this idea? And so that's nice to hear, because I think I agree completely with Commissioner Betancourt. It is so confusing with all these extra layers, and I had never seen layers like this in the past. So having it clearly defined what they mean, where they are, and not interchanging the definitions, I think you're on a great path. So thank you. I'm just really excited to see all this.
It also solves problems, i.e., like that way the city wouldn't have to give the sewer plant up, and they won't do that. I don't blame them. But what if Trespinas wanted to hook up to the city sewer system? Would that still be possible?
If, ask me once more. Would it still be possible for who to connect to the city's sewer system?
Yeah, what you're trying to do is make us, or so that we understand the whole picture. But what I'm saying is, we gotta think out in the future, and I'm just using Trespinas as an example. You know, I know they would have to pay for or get a grant or whatever, like San Juan did, and pay for that system. But would that be possible in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, it's certainly an option, and we'll talk about each one of the options in a bit
Okay.
here. But I think the solution is going to be a combination of the options, which ideally would allow for connection to the system of additional users as they move forward. Let's see here.
Jennifer, if I
Yes.
can excuse me for a minute. In about 5 minutes, we're going to need to take a 5-minute break. Computer issues. So carry on. We'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Regarding the urban service area now, that there is a government code definition for, but the current urban service area as it stands does not meet the LAFCO definition. So, obviously there's something needs to occur with that urban service area, whether if it is desired to continue to be used by LAFCO, then either it needs to shrink to the size of the city sphere, or the city sphere needs to expand to the size of the urban service area. Ideally, the first one, right? Going back to the size of the sphere of influence would be ideal. But if we're doing that, once again, it calls into question what's the purpose of the urban service area if it's the same as the sphere of influence. Why not just focus on the sphere of influence? But if the commission decides that it would like to continue to make use of an urban service area, there really needs to be some well-defined language in your policies that defines who's adopting it, how will it be used, what's its purpose, what differentiates it from a sphere of influence for LAFCO's purposes. All of those items would need to be included, and it's a good thing we're going through our policy update that we'll be able to address those items. So you can decide, do you continue to want to use it or not? And if so, let's improve the language that's in there right now. Let's see here. And I already touched on that. The comprehensive update of policies. Frankly, there's no challenges to that. There's only benefits, so it just needs to occur. Now, regarding the extraterritorial service connections, actually, does the break need to occur in 5 minutes, or do you want to do it now before I get into all of these options?
We can do it now.
Okay, let's
Thank
do
you.
that. That
We're
would be
going to
good.
take a 5 to 10 minute recess.